Hey everybody, this is Rich and you're with Beekeeping with Rich. So as I promised in the last video, this video is going to be about the boiling method of wax extraction. Um, we did a cutout last Sunday, a week ago, and we had a lot of course, leftover comb. We did a cutout of a fairly large hive, 6 to 8 months old, that was in a gumbo limbo tree. For all of you folks not in South Florida, it's just a fun name to say, gumbo limbo. But at any rate, so we have all these chunks that were left over, and we want to go through this now. Most of all this is in here. We'll get to that in a minute. So when you're extracting comb, when you're extracting wax, you have your cappings and your white comb like this, which you should keep separate from your darker comb. Now, I don't actually, believe it or not, I don't consider this to be darker comb than this, because this is still very new comb. It's very light, it's very delicate. Yes, they've raised 2 or 3 or maybe up to 5 generations of brood in it, but still, this is very clean comb. It's very delicate comb, it can crush easily. Whereas, on the other hand, I reserved this piece. This is a piece of brood comb, probably 3 years old at least. It's not delicate. Yes, you can see.
Don't make me laugh.
There's probably not a lot of wax in here. This is pure wax. This is pure wax, just with a little bit of bee dirt on it. This, on the other hand, is a whole lot of old cocoon bits and a lot of dirt and everything else. This stuff is tough. Now, the best way to prepare wax for the boil, well, I should say first, this should always be, this and capping should always be boiled separately from this, if you really want to produce the best quality wax. But if you just want to produce some wax, you can throw it all together, but here's how you do it. You don't take big chunks like this. What you do is you chop everything up into little pieces, 1 inch square at the most. You put them in rainwater. Notice this jug says rainwater on it. I put 5-gallon buckets under the eaves, catch rainwater, transfer it in jugs, and store it for when I'm going to be doing this. So this bottom bucket here is full of rainwater to about here, and all of this comb, light and dark and everything else, has been put in here, all broken up overnight. Let's see if we can tip this forward so she can get a good shot at it. Okay. It's been all busted into small pieces, been put in there. This top bucket was put on top with about 1 gallon of water in it, so that all the wax was held below the surface of the water, so that whatever combs and other material, or whatever, I should say, whatever cocoons and other materials in here that would absorb water, would absorb water. Because if you put this into heat up and it isn't already saturated with water, then it's just going to absorb some of your wax, and that wax is going to be lost to you because it's going to remain stable in it. So at the moment, we've got all this wax here that's been soaking overnight, and you can tell, I know you didn't see it yesterday, but when you look at all the soft edges and such on it now, look at how, this is a piece of the black comb. So I had a lot of this. I had cut back some deep frames to mediums, and so I had a lot of these strips from something I did not too long ago. Busting this up this way, yes, I know this a little bit won't be saturated, but a minor loss. unless you're prepared to take up space in your freezer, storing comb, or put it in buckets with some naphthalene crystals on top, hanging from the inside of the bucket lid or something. It's difficult to store comb for very long before the wax moths will start getting to it. So it's always best to process it on into wax in a fairly, look how, this is brand new wax, but this was exposed to sunlight. So look at this. That's why the bees weren't doing anything with this little bit. They built this little bit, but then the sun hit it and it became crumbly. All that's been soaking overnight in rainwater, and this pot right here is also full of rain, has rainwater in it. The temperature of the water is about 170 degrees. If you're lucky enough to have a plate like this where you can set a temperature, that's great. If not, then you just monitor your temperature with a thermometer, either analog like this, which is showing us that being about 160, or digital. This is showing me it being 171. 170 is a good temperature either way for doing this. So, of course, there's different ways to do this. The simplest, oldest way is to take this, dump it straight into there, let everything heat up. The wax all rises to the surface, you walk away, it cools down, you come back and remove the plug. There's debris that's settled all the way to the bottom. There's debris that's floated up to the underside of the wax. And you take that plug of wax out the next morning, you slice that off, and you either reprocess it using the same technique, or you could transfer over to doing a solar extraction at that point if you wanted to, or a steam extraction. And of course you could have done this with steam extraction to start with anyway. Basically the preparation of the wax is the same for doing the steam extraction as it is for doing the oil extraction. You just don't have to buy a steam generator to do it, which is why I'm showing you this. So at any rate, you can use a piece of cotton, but cotton's going to absorb a good deal of wax itself and not release it to you. Or you can use the 600 micron mesh that you can get from the beekeeper supply houses, or you can do like I've done. I had the good luck one day of being in the thrift store, walking by the drapery section, notice this great big old shear, which is probably about 1400 microns. I think that's the direction it goes. Very, very tiny pores between it. And this is a section cut from that. And this is what I use to do that with. This is a piece I have often used in the past. And if it is big enough for this pile, we'll continue to use it for this particular example. If it's not, then we will cut a bigger piece off of that. But to make this easier, a bowl makes it a lot less messy. Now this video will be in two parts because we'll go through the process until I have it anchored underwater here. And after that, we will shut this video off and we will resume with part 2 in a couple of hours when the wax has melted and had a chance to cool off and we have a plug to remove, and we'll start up again. Looks like there might be a little more here than I can handle with this piece of cloth. we're going to need a bigger piece of cloth here. There. Cut in, cut in is. Because after all, this whole thing cost me $2. And the nice thing is, unlike a piece of cotton cloth or burlap or canvas or anything else, it's endlessly reusable. Because you can, most of the wax will just crumple off the sides of it if you tease it a bit. And that doesn't, you can pop it in the freezer and tease it off on the counter. And anything that doesn't come out from there, you can simply put the whole piece of cloth under boiling water and all the wax will melt out of it again anyway. So I've been reusing that piece for smaller batches and straining and such for quite a long time. That's good enough. Now, there you go. As an example, this piece of string here is so impregnated with wax, because I've used this piece of string several times. It was completely saturated with wax, and that didn't come out in the boiling process. I'll give you an example. So, I have always been a little uncertain, a little lack of confidence that if I have this material in contact with the bottom of the pan, whether there'd be a possibility of it melting or not. So, I took this colander. We have a little slippage here. We have a possible escapee. I took this colander and just a couple of screws, screwed some sticks around the outside to hold it an inch off the bottom. Just to make sure. We have a slight issue here that wanted to sneak away from me. There's the one thing you can't have is another thing you can't have is you can't have it doing this. Now, I live in South Florida. There's no such thing as real stone in South Florida. So this is not lead. This is lead-free pewter. But I need something to act as a weight to hold it to the bottom. And I want this gathered up area to be to the bottom and the smooth area to be to the top. Because with all these folds and such, an awful lot of wax kind of gets trapped in the folds. Now it falls right out when you unravel this whole thing. but I'd rather just have it bubbling up through the water there. So, weighted side down, smooth side up. Put it in the water. I will need to add 1 more gallon of water to it to bring it over the top. Which of course is cooling the water off for the moment, but it'll come back up to 170 degrees in short order. Ouch. Looks like I need a little more weight, or I need to push that down there a little better. Hang on a second. That's just the air. Okay. Well, we'll be ending this piece of the video at this point. I will get a little more weight to put on top of here, let the thing come back up to temperature, let the wax separate from the water, and then let it cool, and we will revisit part 2 of this video this evening. Everyone have a great day. Bye for now.